LIWAY is a 2018 Filipino film based on a true story that follows the life of the Kip, a 10-year-old kid who grows up in an anti-Marcos prison camp set during the 80s. The movie is directed by Kip Obenda, who is actually the Kip, as a note to his mother, to the reality of his childhood, and to other Filipinos who lived through the same fate as him during the Marcos regime. Living in a makeshift prison in a military camp, the Kip lives as a happy boy, oblivious to the rest of the world beyond the prison's limits. In an effort of giving him a normal life and protecting him from the harsh realities of the world, the Kip's mother, referred to as Dai, often told him stories about fictional heroes and characters in Philippine mythology. Among one of the many stories she told him was that of her own, a fictionalized version of LIWAY as a diwata that protects Mount Canlaon. As the movie progresses, together with the waning of the Marcos dictatorship, their lives within the prison become filled with uncertainty and fear, and the Kip grows to learn the real situation. The film is no less than a heavy melodrama, bearing the emotions of Obenda's memories as it draws experience from reality. However, as the movie is seen from the eyes of a young kid who thinks the prison is a happy place, there is a degree of subtleness in conveying the emotions through the characters. It is left to the audience to grasp the bleakness and the sadness from the life of a happy kid. This is best portrayed in the manner of cinematography, in which the film is shown in soft and light colors, contrary to the dark truths that sobered up towards the end. Furthermore, the sophisticated sense of storytelling was delivered through a non-linear timeline that depicts the dark past of Dai, interspersed with the present, suggesting that the family's dangerous past would soon connect to their dubious future. The music is placed properly, except for some few parts where silence would have been better to convey the weight of the story. Overall, the editing was also smooth and easy to understand, in a manner that is as aesthetic, just as it is entertaining. The take on the story is also extremely specific, which is attributed to the outlook of the filmmaker himself, from which he perceived his life back then. The angles and montages are almost entirely confined in the camp, without much input on the context of the large-scale political unrest happening outside. Although this can be appreciated as the unity and loyalty of the filmmaker to present the story purely through the eyes of a child, inputs on the context of the situation would have helped justify the fear of the family towards the end of the film. Additionally, although the movie is entitled as LIWAY, one of the major axes of the film focused on the Kip and not on his mother. This does not mean, however, that Glyza de Castro's portrayal of her character was subpar, because her acting was rather magnetic and commendable. It perhaps simply connotes that the youth will always remain to be the teller of the stories, and the manner at which they share and use their words is crucial. We can see this in the movie, as the Kip was also asked to speak in front of the crowd, imparting a message that is deep and meaningful, as we will see later. One of the most interesting parts of the film would be the relative indifference that the Kip's character showed during his first encounter with the outside world. An outsider would simply assume that the child was missing out on the pleasures and happiness beyond the prison gates, but growing up, knowing only what the prison offered, the Kip proved that happiness is relative. Being given the chance to sleep on a proper bed outside, the Kip opted to sleep on the bathroom floor instead. During a rally outside the camp, as he was asked to speak, he delivered the innocence of his message by talking about his experience outside in a calm and reserved tone. This is contrary to what the audience would normally expect from him, as of course, from an outsider's perspective, freedom comes with bouts of joy and excitement. As he was speaking, the audience were visibly laughing at the innocence and the humor that comes with being a child. However, the calmness or indifference in the Kip's voice fortified his message by setting up a serious tone for the audience to contemplate on what he said. His words carry meaning by forcing the audience to reflect whether they too have become mannequins who rest comfortably in silence and inaction, despite the abuses that are thrown to them by the system, by society, or by their own selves. It highlights how as human beings we are able to experience and perpetuate oppression, and even worse, how we accept its normalization. Despite being filled with historical revisionism, it reached the hearts of many viewers. Perhaps it resonated with the audience because many share the same stories or have heard about them, as during the time of the martial law, around 500 to 700 detention centers were scattered across the country. Or rather, perhaps it resonated with them because they had to be reminded of patriotism that is needed in the present times. The reasons may be different for everyone, but the story of LIWAY and the KIP united the same sense of belonging with or without freedom that we all need.